It's filled up. We weren't sure who would actually turn up, so thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Lovely to see so many of you. My name is Michelle Whelan. I'm co-CEO of VML Wine-R and CEO of VML Wine-R Commerce. And I'm joined today by an exceptional business leader and CMO, Tony Miller. Tony is very well known in the industry for brand building and also digital transformation, a lot of which we'll talk about in the next 20-25 minutes. He worked previously at Weight Watchers and also the Walt Disney Company, and was recognized last year by Marketing Week as being one of the most effective marketeers in the UK. So we're very, very lucky and fortunate that Tony was able to give us our time this afternoon to talk about how do we drive growth, right? The thing that we're all thinking about as we go into our planning for next year. And more particularly, how do we drive growth in an omni-channel world? If you all remember, a couple of years ago, we talked about omni-channel for many brands and retailers as being the space whether you either had a physical presence or a digital presence. And now as the world has changed so much, we can't talk about separate presences anymore. The lines have blurred and we actually live in a seamless, frictionless world. And we've heard a lot about that this morning. And even just looking at the technology around the floors, it's all about using technology to build that seamless experience. And one of the retailers that I often highlight when I talk about a retailer that I'm a massive fan of is Sephora. If you look at Sephora as really driving innovation for beauty shoppers in terms of how they've brought phenomenal technology into their stores, seamlessly connecting the physical, the digital, and really understanding who their customers are. It sounds really easy, right? But on a daily basis, the clients that I talk to, the clients that we work with, they still cannot achieve that level of customer frictionless experiences. And I think it's a big challenge that we all still face. And so what Tony and I thought we'd do is kind of just deconstruct some of the silos that a lot of our clients are having, some of the issues that a lot of marketeers are still having, and then within that, find the opportunities for growth. So Tony, in your experience, which is vast, and all of the change that you've helped organizations go through, what are some of the challenges that clients have today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's many challenges, but one that really sticks out is just silos that are still created. You talked about it. And I think the fact that organizations are not working together to kind of break down those silos. If you think about marketing and sales teams, they're kind of at odds with each other. They're trying to do the same thing, but they're actually fighting against each other. On top of that, you've got operational development teams that are in a separate business unit. You've got your product development teams that are also separate. Nobody's working together. Everybody's trying to do the same thing and reach the same goals of growth. But companies that are actually doing it well are those that actually understand that and actually can figure out how to work together, how to understand the hows to do that, understand how to measure success, and until you can actually break down those silos, you're going to have a difficult time, I think, seeing growth.
So I was in a meeting earlier this week with a number of clients, and you wouldn't think that you would have a conversation like this with a very senior marketeer who actually turned around and said, I'm actually not responsible for the web presence of that particular business. And this was the most senior marketeer in that particular organization. And I think it's just a very clear example of how, and even within all of your organizations, how joined up are all of the various different functions and departments to really start to understand when you think about your sales, are you thinking about your sales holistically, or are you thinking about your sales from a physical retail perspective or an e-commerce perspective or a social perspective? Because that is not where growth is going to come from. And I come back to the example of Sephora. They formed a united marketing team, brought together all of their sales, brought together all of their marketing team, and they think holistically about the human being that is in their stores, that's online, that's on their social sites, that's shopping with them from a human perspective. And I think one of the ways maybe of breaking down some of those silos is really to put the person the human being that you're dealing with as an organization at the very center of that. Something you've done brilliantly well throughout all of your career. And when you do that, when you put the customer and you are purely customer-centric at the heart of your business, does it break down some of those silos?
100%. It's all about reframing that customer experience through the lens of the consumers. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. We're people first before we are customers. Our lives, our interests, what turns us on, what turns us off. We have to be really aware of those signals in order to have a holistic consumer experience that is going to be meaningful for the brand to actually see growth beyond that. I think if I think about my own experience at Disney, the reason I was at Disney was to actually cut through those silos. So they had very mature verticals in every single marketing department, but what they didn't have was a horizontal layer of seeing everything through the customer lens and that experience. So I was brought in to build teams around experience to bring theatrical together from the stores, through parks, through partnerships and licensing. It's actually trying to break through those and actually understand the person behind what they're purchasing to get a great experience end to end.
And to cross-sell, right?
Oh,
So
and to cross-sell.
when we think about those growth opportunities that we're all looking for, how do we actually identify those key moments when people are giving us those signals where we can start to cross-sell a lot of the various different product suites that we have? Amongst many of the roles and the accolades that Tony has, Tony also sits on the board of the DMA, the Direct Marketing Association, which many of you are familiar with. And the Direct Marketing Association has recently issued a new customer experience report, which is all about how to win back loyalty with customers. And I think when we think about omnichannel, when we think about those experiences that we're creating for a lot of our customers, loyalty is a really key factor within that. And we know, right? We know the stats that if you're a seamless omnichannel company, your retention rate with a lot of your customers is 88%. If you're not a seamless omnichannel company, it's 37%. So already you can start to see the massive gap that exists for a lot of brands and a lot of retailers in not delivering those omnichannel experiences. Within the report and the conversation about customer experience and loyalty, is there anything you can share with our lovely group of people that have joined us on?
Absolutely, but before I get into some of the numbers, a fun fact for you and for all of us is the first customer loyalty program arguably was the Baker's Dozen, where actually returning customers would buy 12 rolls, and through the wink of the baker would throw in a 13 for free. But what that did was actually get you back again because you wanted that 13 for free. Effective retention. I would also think Pret, before their original loyalty program, when they would actually surprise you with a free coffee, did the same thing. You would want to go into that store to think about, am I going to be the next customer that's going to get the free coffee or not? But some of the key takeouts from the report actually are very interesting. 88% of consumers now take control of their personal situation and their spending habits to tackle the cost of rising products and services. 61% of our consumers feel less loyal to brands than they did a year ago. 81% actually spend time comparing prices before making that purchase, and that is up from 67% just last year. So a dramatic increase. And as we all know, price promotions have become more important to drive that new brand purchase. But despite being promiscuous and our consumers are looking left, right, and center, there is a massive opportunity for win-back. Win-back, though, goes beyond the price. We're going to shop the price because we need to, and that's going to be the best deal. But those that you're going to get back and those that you're going to retain have to offer something more than just price. They have to offer loyalty beyond just that product. You have to buy into what the company believes in, how they tell their story, and actually what they're offering to you so you come back and want more. So it boils down to people want product and purpose over functionality. Price alone is going to do so much, but it's actually that storytelling that experience that is going to draw you in. So I think, for me, I see a couple of opportunities for growth. That North Star of actually, where are you going? What is your purpose beyond that product? How are you convincing me as a consumer? How do you know me, first of all, and how do you convince to me that you're the right person to buy with? And it's that joy that you bring with that storytelling. It's bringing you in beyond just the secrets of just that price element. It is, Weight Watchers is a good example where we actually focused on a community. The community at heart drove everything. Our insights, our marketing strategies were built based on what consumers needed in their transformation. But if I think beyond my own experience, I think two examples come to mind for me. It's North Face, actually, and their loyalty program. It's really interesting. It's like, of course, you're going to get points for store purchases online, but it goes beyond that. You actually get rewarded for experiences you take and people you recommend. So now it's actually getting people outdoors, exercising, wellness, and they're actually being rewarded for not just a purchase, but what they're doing outside. Starbucks is another interesting one. They've got a beta program in the US called Starbucks Odyssey, which is being powered by Web3. And what they're actually doing is enticing their consumers to go on journeys or take activities with them that then reward them through challenges and NFTs and digital experiences and that go beyond just that price. So you have to offer things beyond just the surface level.
They're brilliant examples, and I think gone are the days where we've all got our Tesco Club card and our Sainsbury's loyalty cards in our wallets where we're rewarded for past purchases as opposed to actually empowering and enable us to have experiences around the brands. In a lot of the conversations I have with clients, particularly retailers, is anyone here from Amazon? Because I'm going to talk about Amazon for a second. When we talk about the power of Amazon and how Amazon is one of our greatest competitors from a retailer perspective, but also Amazon is the platform to really learn from. I did a piece of research on some of the activities that Amazon have really innovated on the back of Prime Day. And there's a couple of things that Amazon are doing brilliantly, and yes, they have the data on the platform, but they truly understand the needs, the wants, the desires, and the behaviors of people. And everything that they're doing is now designing experiences around those data triggers that Tony talked about. And not only that, but they're actually moving into their own TikTok-style platform where they're developing their own Inspire apps in the US, which they launched on Prime Day, really making sure that their Gen Z audience, when they hit their platform, are having experiences that they're having on many, many other gaming platforms. So even a retailer like Amazon is moving into the experience space, joining up all of those touch points, delivering experiences for people. And fast forward 12 months from now, and we'll start to see Alibaba-style festivals on the Amazon platform, and I'm really convinced that that will happen before we actually even blink an eye on it. And Tony talked about the power of storytelling and the power of creativity, and which is music to my ears, obviously, leading a creative agency. But I think creativity in commerce is something that has moved on in leaps and bounds over the last 12 months. We're seeing brands truly invest in brand building, client engagement, and conversion in commerce channels like never before. And as we kind of look at some of the brands that are doing that well, do you want to share some thoughts with a brand that I know you love very much and who's doing an excellent job in this space?
Absolutely, and I think that creativity, there's a spectrum of that creativity in terms of how functional versus emotional you really need to be, but at the heart of it, regardless of what spectrum you're on, it's about that frictionless experience that you have in your omnichannel experience. So for me, Zara comes to mind, and I think they're doing things brilliantly with their app, they're doing things brilliantly with their web, and their in-store experience. Everything is tied together seamlessly, whether that is click and collect or returns. They have their own area, so you even can queue up in the same area that you're purchasing. You can do your self-checkout outside right after you've done your clothes exchange. You can pay seamlessly with your app, or if you don't have the app, it's just as easy. no hitch. So it's that creativity within the technology that they're actually delivering a really true creative omnichannel experience.
And I think what Zara is doing phenomenally well is rewarding people for that. So when you've downloaded their app, when you've gone through that whole customer journey and that shopping experience, they are rewarding their loyal customers on the back of that. One of the massive changes that we're seeing in the space of commerce is the use of AI and technology in really closing those gaps. So moving from the very first topic we talked about, which is the silos that exist in many of our organizations that are preventing us from joining up that customer journey, we're now seeing a lot of brands moving into leveraging technology to do that. And as we move into what I always call the golden quarter, which we're in now, which is the quarter of the year if you're on a fiscal year where we're all looking to fill the gaps in our revenue, but actually we're all looking to two of the biggest moments of the year, and that is gifting around Christmas, and also January, February, which is New Year, New You. Those have become absolutely key occasions in the retailer calendar. So Christmas is not actually that far away, is it, Tony? So from your perspective, as you think about, some of the activities that you have done at Disney or even Weight Watchers, what brands will win this Christmas, and what brands are going to really smash it and do really well?
Absolutely. No, it's an exciting time. I'm waiting in anticipation for those Christmas adverts from the usual suspects. But I think thinking aside from them for a moment, I think for me it's those that actually are going to touch on those experiences, that togetherness. So Airbnb comes to mind for me. It may not be an obvious Christmas focus, but I think that whole idea of gifting and that bringing together, the way that they're using and tapping music, images, family time, it's the authenticity that they're actually bringing to the table. Their app is based on search, based on things you'd like to do. They know their consumers. Back to our conversation about thinking about people as humans. They're looking for people that have the most exotic pools or areas with different cabins to have that experience. So for me, they're one to watch because I think they're on fire at the moment. And I think it's just going to be all about the storytelling, all about the togetherness, and all about that emotional joy that actually comes through their brand.
We've all seen a lot of the, even this morning H&M announced their profits. And I think one of the things that's going to drive the golden quarter for a lot of brands and retailers is the fact that we're all going to start shopping early. We're all going to find ways of spreading what we are going to spend at Christmas time over that period to try and help people do what they need to do over Christmas. And I guess as we start to think about creativity in this space, coming back to really truly understanding the wants, the needs, and the behaviors, I think the role for many brands and retailers as we move into Christmas and next year is to really make sure that you understand what your customers' needs. I sat in a session this morning with Silkfred, who is an amazing fashion marketplace. And one of the things that the CEO talked about was the fact that 70% of their fashion business is down this year. But actually where they're winning is really understanding their customers, really driving for insight and data, those marginal gains and the niche moments that you will find on that customer journey to win with people. So I think as we look at coming back to driving growth through that connected experience, I think my takeouts, and then we'll come on to your takeouts, Tony, is you've got to understand people. You've got to understand those humans, those behaviors. Don't treat them like target audiences. Really get under the skin of what those people are about, because that is how you're really going to drive those moments of growth, those marginal gains, and really understanding how you need to evolve your business to meet them, because it's not just about the product and not just about the product consumption.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, my two takeaways is breaking down silos. And I know that is hard, but if you are in an organization that is just focused solely on one particular area and other areas are out of your remit, you need to figure out ways to come together and bring those conversations together for the ultimate goal of driving better business going forward. For me, that's crucial if you want to win. The second, tapping into what you said, is just that storytelling. It's the product It's the purpose of the product piece. It's like give people joy through that experience of your brand. What are you going to offer that is value beyond just that price point? Because everybody's looking for price, but the people that are going to stay are going to be those that actually give you something more than just price.
I love that. Give people joy this Christmas. I think we've got about 2 minutes left if there's anybody that has a burning question or anyone's got a thought that they want to build on or jump in. No? Okay. Then it's just to say thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, spending the time. I know there's quite a lot going on with lots of stages, and a huge thank you to Tony for joining me this afternoon and sharing a lot of your experience with us.
No, appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.